Welcome back to Petitto Defense. I'm your host, Carl Petitto. We're talking about ammunition. I want to give you a brief overview of ammunition, the different parts of the ammunition, and the basics of how it works. Later videos we can get into a little bit more detail, but today let's do a nice overview. Now, before the times of the cartridge, where we had the shell and the bullet, and it was all compact into, this is from a really large aircraft. Let's talk about from one of my rifles. Before it was all compact into a nice little cartridge like this, it was all encased within the gun. This is what's called a muzzle loader. So it's loaded from the muzzle. The chamber is the case. So on this, the case or the shell holds the powder. In this case, the gun chamber holds the powder. So a person would literally measure their powder from a larger reservoir, adjust the amount, and you notice that these things are brass. It's brass because brass does not spark. It's brass for safety. So I'd fill into the measured amount, literally dump the powder into the muzzle, push a lead ball, 54 caliber. In this case, this is 0.530 inches in diameter. It's called a 54. That 54 caliber ball would be pressed down into against the powder. What would normally be the primer of the cartridge, we use what's called a percussion cap. The percussion cap goes onto the nipple. When the hammer fires, this is what a percussion cap looks like. There's powder on the inside and it causes a small explosion. So when the hammer fires, it causes the explosion, the flame goes down through this channel, ignites the powder, and the bullet leaves the gun. Now, rather than carrying all of these parts, eventually people came up with the cartridge, and the cartridge was invented. So all of the powder, the percussion cap, which is now called the primer, is in the base of the shell. Here's a larger version. It's on the base, and that gets struck by the firing pin. That causes the explosion and ignites the powder. I'm going to show you an anatomic drawing of the cartridge in a few moments. But first, let's take a look at the different types of ammunition. So we have rifle, shotgun, handgun, and just a reminder, handguns consist of pistols and revolvers, which I'll demonstrate in a few minutes. And be sure to look out for the episode where I talk about how to optimally handle revolvers and pistols. So there's rimfire and there's centerfire. This is an example of the centerfire cartridge with the percussion, the primer is directly in the center. There's a rimfire, which is used for smaller calibers. This is a 22, and the powder is around the edge, which causes the explosion to ignite the main chamber in the case. And that could be any position. It could be struck in any position around the outside diameter, and that will cause the charge to ignite the powder. And I have an example here of a target pistol, and you can see how it fits my hands perfectly. This is for target. It's a 22 caliber handgun. Now, the same can be true of rifles and pistols with the centerfire and the rimfire. On the shotgun, we have shot and slug, and it's always a center fire. Now on the shotgun ammunition, the shot shell, there's still a primer in the center. This is a live round that was not punctured. This one from the aircraft here was obviously punctured. The firing pin struck it. This is what it looks like when the firing pin has not struck the primer. This is loaded with powder in the base of the shell. Then at the top of the shell is loaded with shot. Firing happens, the shot explodes out and travels through the shotgun. Now I have an example of a 12 gauge here, and all of these firearms have been unloaded and double checked along with my camera person for optimal safety. We did all of our proper preparation. In addition to that, I'm still always going to double check that the dummy round is loaded so I can access a round out of the tubular magazine. Now it's ready to be chambered. When I bring the forend forward, that's going to chamber that dummy round. This one is bright orange. I know that that's a dummy round. And then when I remove the safety and fire on that dummy round, now bang, I'm ready to load a new round, and that is going to face this. I want to pay attention of where the spent shell flies, and then I'm going to load a new one in, and this is spraying a bunch of shot out. And there's different types of shotgun ammunition for different purposes. There's smaller shot that gives you a wider pattern. There's larger shot that is tighter and also can be a little wide as well, that hits harder. There's all different types of shotgun ammunition that we can explore later in future videos. In the previous video, we talked about slugs that are rifled and non-rifled that are designed to travel through the smooth bore of the shotgun barrel. So there's slugs and there's shot. To see some more detail of that, watch a previous video about the basics of rifles and shotguns. When we look at the different bullet styles, there's what's called full metal jacket, soft point, hollow point, ballistic tip. Let's look at a few examples. So for this 45 automatic pistol, I'll show you an example of a full metal jacket. It's just what it sounds like. There's metal around the whole bullet, the end of the cartridge. So you have the bullet, we talked about the primer, the case holds the gunpowder, and I'm going to actually show you gunpowder in a moment, and then the bottom is here where the primer is located. So the bullet here is a full metal jacket. It's jacketed fully in metal, and there's also a hollow point round here, which this has some grooves in it. It's designed to splinter apart. It's designed to mushroom a lot. And this has copper around the outside, and then you can see the actual lead on the inside. And that's called a jacketed hollow point, JHP, a jacketed hollow point. So on the pistol, and I'm never putting my finger on the trigger until I'm ready to fire, I'm going to do what's called a press check. I'm going to ensure that there's a dummy round in the chamber. This pistol is a single action. So when I remove the safety and I drop the hammer on the firing pin, it's going to go bang. Automatically the gases, the recoil is going to move the slide. It's going to eject the spent round and place another round in the chamber. And then I can fire again, bang, 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 bang. It'll automatically go back and forth. All right, so that's an example of the 45 ACP 45 automatic Colt pistol. By the way, we're going to be talking about holsters, and I'm going to be explaining about how to condition them, how to make them soft, how to make them comfortable for sometimes appendix carry or side carry. We're going to be talking about holsters shortly. I also want to show you an example of a ballistic tip. On my lever action rifle, I can use a jacketed soft point, which is jacketed with copper. There's a soft point of lead at the end that allows it to mushroom pretty wide. The nose is flat, so it's not going to have a lot of penetration. Most likely, if I'm shooting a large animal and it's not going to pass all the way through, it's going to hit that flat end and then mushroom out quite a bit. On the ballistic tip, I'm going to get some better penetration. You can see the red tip, and it's going to control the mushrooming a little bit better, a little bit differently. And this is safe, by the way, to use in a tubular magazine because the ballistic tip is soft enough that it is not going to set off the primer that's in front of it. Because this is a tubular magazine where all of these cartridges are held one right after the other in line in the tube in the magazine. So verifying again that I have a dummy round in the chamber. You can see that it's red. That is a dummy round. I'm going to load one into the chamber, remove the safety. That will allow the firing pin to strike the primer and set off the charge. And then I'm going to have the recoil. The gases are going to escape. There's going to be a lot of pushback because there's so much energy forward. And that's your recoil. On this is what's called ported. So these holes right here help to mitigate or to reduce recoil. It allows the gases to escape through these holes in addition to just the muzzle. So there's less kick or recoil. Now let's talk about some other types of bullets. Remember, the bullet is the projectile. So there's something called monometal. And monometal, mono meaning one, it's just made of one type of metal. So the expansion can be very evenly controlled. This is a flat nose. This is a 44 Magnum. And that would be fired from this revolver. There's also a type of bullet which is called hard cast. This does not expand. It's a flat nose for a flatter, a sort of a mushroom shape, if you will, that will push through the target, but it won't spread out or mushroom further because it's what's called hard cast is designed to not spread out. And this size is a 9mm diameter bullet fired out of my 9mm pistol. And just to confirm that I have a dummy round loaded, this is a double action, and we're going to be talking about this in greater detail in a future video. So the double action, it can be carried without the hammer pulled back. I'm going to use my decocker, which is designed to safely decock the gun. That did not fire, it just lowered the hammer. Now it's ready to go. So this can be carried in whatever position that is optimal for you. And then when the gun is drawn, pulling the hammer back also pulling the trigger back pulls the hammer back at the same time. So you can watch that slowly, and then now it fires. And then after it fires, this is going to work the same way. The slide is going to eject the spent round, and a new one will be loaded in. And then now the hammer is back. Now it's going to be a easier trigger pull for that. And I'm verifying again that it's a dummy round. Now it's an easier trigger pull. There's less slack in the trigger, and I can bang, bang, bang much easier. That first one is always double action. All right, now let's take a look at the gunpowder. Now, when a person reloads, when a cartridge is fired and the bullet has left, these brass casings can be kept and a new primer can be placed, new powder, and a new bullet pressed onto the casing. This is what the powder looks like. And I want to show you a couple of bullets. Now, the base of the bullet that gets pressed into the casing, this is an example of what's called a boat tail. And this boat tail is, you can see how it's beveled for a greater aerodynamic benefit, for more speed, a more accurate trajectory. This is an example of a bullet without a boat tail. And this has a soft lead core. This is the base that gets pressed into the shell. This is the top. So this is a jacketed soft point. The point is soft. It's going to mushroom. It'll strike the target, begin that mushrooming process, and then spread out and peeling the copper back. And you'll end up with a pretty good size mushroom appearance bullet. So that is a summary of different types of ammunition and different types of firearms. If you have questions, please write in. I like it when folks engage and write in. I like answering questions. If I don't have the answer to your question, I'll find it. I invite you to my website, petittodefense.com. Thank you.